I was looking through our notes for today, and it made me realize something a little uncomfortable about my own search history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the books I buy or the articles I save, they're almost all focused on, well, on addition.
Right. How to add a new habit.
Exactly. How to add a revenue stream, how to add more hours to the day.
That's the default setting for almost everyone, isn't it?
Okay.
We're taught that growth means accumulation. If you're not getting bigger, you must be shrinking.
Right. But the material we're covering today, the art of quiet integration, it takes a sledgehammer to that whole idea.
It really does.
It's framed like a manifesto, but honestly, it felt more like a wake-up call to me. It argues that the biggest growth in your life, the kind that actually sticks, isn't about what you add.
It's about what you subtract.
Yes. And I have to be honest, the way it describes that process, it terrified me a little bit.
It should. I mean, at least a little. Because the core idea here is that you have to dismantle the performed self to find the real self.
And that process.
It doesn't feel like a victory lap. The source is very clear on that. It feels like loss. It feels like you're stuck. It feels, to use the source's own word, boring.
Which is a tough sell. Tune in today to learn how to be bored and feel like you're losing.
Exactly. But that's why we're doing this deep dive. Because if you are feeling that stuckness, that slowness, you might actually be right on track. The promise here is that this boring phase is a biological necessity.
It's the sound of your nervous system finally calming down.
It's the exhale. So our mission today is to decode this quiet integration. We need to figure out why feeling slow might be the healthiest thing you've felt in years, and why the you that emerges isn't shinier, just more honest.
Okay, so let's start there with this concept of the emerging self.
Right.
The text opens with a very specific line. It says, the version of you emerging right now. Not louder, not shinier, just more honest.
It's such a direct critique of the whole glow-up culture. Yeah.
Absolutely. The idea that you go away for a month, hit the gym, start a business.
And come back dazzling everyone. It's a performance. It's for the movies. This source is saying that real change is, it's internal. And a lot of the time, it's totally invisible to everyone else.
And that invisibility is the hard part. We're addicted to the montage sequence. We want the reveal.
We want the party at the end. But real growth doesn't have a reveal party. The source calls this the quiet space where nothing feels defined yet.
Ugh, that phrase.
It's unsettling, right?
Quiet.
When you stop chasing the person you were told to be, the high achiever, the reliable one, you enter a void. And we hate voids. We'll fill that space with anything, noise, scrolling, just busy work.
It's basically an identity crisis. If I'm not the person who's always busy, then who am I?
That's the question. And that's where subtraction comes in, is the actual method. The source lists things you start subtracting, and they're not just like bad habits.
Right, it's not eat less sugar.
No, it's survival mechanisms. Things like canceling plans that drain you, or stopping the urge to over-explain yourself.
Oh, the over-explaining one. That hit home for me. That need to make sure everyone understands why you're doing something so they don't judge you. It's exhausting.
It's a defense mechanism, a plea for safety. When you subtract that, you're just left with your action. I'm not doing this. Full stop.
And nothing else.
Nothing else. Another one the source mentions is letting a conversation end without fighting to be understood.
That requires a huge suppression of the ego. Just letting someone be wrong about you.
It does. It means you value your own peace more than being right in someone else's mind. And when you start subtracting these things, the performing, the pleasing life gets quiet. And the source warns us, it might feel lonely.
Because you're not dancing for the audience anymore.
Precisely. You're not providing the entertainment you used to. People might stop clapping. They might even stop calling as much. And that's where most of us just abandon the whole process.
You feel that loneliness and you think, I've made a huge mistake. I need to get back out there.
But the source says that loneliness isn't a penalty. It's a prerequisite. It's clearing the deck. You have to endure the empty lot for a little while.
Okay, let's get into the biological side of this. The source makes this really fascinating link between the psychology and our actual physiology. It talks about survival mode versus alignment.
This is so crucial. Because we usually think survival mode is, running from a bear, something extreme.
A crisis.
Right. But the source introduces this concept called subtle survival mode.
I bookmarked that term, subtle survival mode. What does that actually look like day to day? Because I have a feeling I might be living in it.
It looks like high-functioning anxiety. On the outside, you're fine. You're hitting deadlines, you're at the parties, your house is clean, you look successful.
But inside?
Inside, Your cortisol is spiking. You're overanalyzing every single email. You're people-pleasing not out of kindness, but out of a need to feel safe. You're constantly scanning the room.
So it's a total mismatch. The exterior is calm, the interior is a war zone.
It's performing peace. That's the phrase the source uses. You're simulating a relaxed state, but you are not experiencing it. And the insight here is that the body eventually gets tired of performing peace.
And that's when the crash happened.
The shift happens. And the signs of this shift are not these big dramatic explosions. They're tiny. They're micro-resistances. The source lists things like you start noticing what feels off instead of just ignoring it.
It's like the anesthesia finally wears off.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're at dinner and a friend makes a joke that's a little disrespectful. And for the last 5 years, you would have just awkwardly laughed to keep things light.
Right.
But now,
Yeah.
just don't. You don't make a scene, but you don't laugh.
That silence is loud, though, not laughing when you're supposed to. That's a huge disruption. It makes everything awkward.
It creates tension.
Ye-
But what you're doing is subtracting the fawn response. You're no longer fawning to stay safe. Another sign is physical resistance. Your body literally puts on the brakes when you try to say yes to something that costs too much energy.
I have felt that. It's that heavy, dread-filled feeling in your gut, even if the invitation is for something supposedly fun.
And for years, we just call that being lazy or antisocial. We try to push through it. But the source says this is your awareness returning. It's not regression. It's your nervous system finally getting a vote.
Okay, but this is where the friction comes in. Because if I stop laughing at the bad jokes and I say no to the plans, I become kind of a difficult person, or at least a less convenient one.
You become less consumable. And that leads us straight to the section on self-love, where the source is very critical of the commercial version of it.
The treat yourself culture.
Exactly. Bubble baths, shopping, affirmations. The source argues those are just temporary painkillers.
Yeah.
Real self-love, it says, is choosing not to abandon yourself in small moments.
That's a much heavier definition, not abandoning yourself.
It shifts the focus from pleasure to integrity. So, for example, your inner critic, that voice that says, you're lazy, you didn't do enough today. Self-love is interrupting that voice mid-sentence and firmly saying, no, we don't speak to ourselves like that anymore.
It's like you're reparenting yourself, setting boundaries inside your own mind.
Exactly. And it's also about sitting with discomfort. If you feel anxious, self-love isn't immediately distracting yourself with Netflix. It's sitting there and acknowledging, okay, I'm anxious, that's allowed.
But here's the part that I think is the most difficult. The source says, sometimes self-love looks like disappointing people.
That's the pill that is hardest to swallow. The text says it explicitly. Growth requires friction. If you're a recovering people pleaser, that idea of causing friction, it feels like failure.
You think, if I was doing this right, everyone would be happy with me.
But the source would say, if everyone is happy with you all the time, you are almost certainly betraying yourself. You're paying for their comfort with your suppression.
There's a grieving process in there, too, that the source mentions. Grieving the version of yourself who used to tolerate everything.
Yes, that part is so poignant.
I really relate to that. There's a weird nostalgia for being the easygoing one. Life felt smoother.
It was smoother for them. It was chaotic for you. The source calls this whole shedding process consolidation. You're not losing pieces of yourself. You're becoming denser, more solid.
So we shed the armor, we disappoint people, we stop performing, and then we arrive at the stillness. And this creates a whole new problem: boredom.
The danger of boring. This is maybe the most dangerous phase of the whole process because this is where relapse happens.
Relapse into chaos.
Relapse into intensity. The source points out that if your baseline for normal has been stress and survival mode for, decades, then peace feels like a threat.
It feels suspicious, like the other shoe is about to drop.
Exactly. Your brain is going, where's the tiger? Why is it so quiet? Something must be wrong. We mistake chaos for chemistry. We mistake burnout for ambition. So when we finally get a moment of real peace, we often self-sabotage.
I have absolutely done this. Things are going too well, it's a quiet Tuesday, and suddenly I'm picking a fight, or I'm doom scrolling, or I'm committing to a project I have no time for.
Just to get that adrenaline spike. That's the addiction to intensity. The source says we have to reframe our entire relationship with boring. It says boring isn't bad. Boring is safe. And safe can be revolutionary.
Safe can be revolutionary. That's a powerful idea. We usually think of safe as settling.
But in a world designed to keep you dysregulated, choosing safety is an act of rebellion. The source uses this great analogy of a tree here.
Okay.
We all want to be the tree that grows 3 feet taller every day. We want that visible, vertical growth.
You want to see the progress.
Right. But sometimes a tree's doing absolutely nothing above ground. All the energy is going down. It's deepening its roots.
And root growth is invisible to the neighbors.
Totally invisible. But if you have this massive canopy, huge success, big reputation, and shallow roots, the first storm just knocks you over. The source argues that if your life feels boring right now, you are probably in a root building phase. You're stabilizing.
And that connects to the idea of sustainable ambition. I like that because the source isn't saying give up on your dreams.
No, this is not about becoming a monk. It's about changing the fuel source. Burnout ambition is fueled by cortisol and the need for validation. I have to achieve this so they'll think I'm worthy.
And sustainable ambition is.
It's fueled by alignment. I want to do this because it's who I am. It's a slower burn, but it burns for so much longer. The result of all this integration isn't becoming a superhero. It's becoming stable.
Stable doesn't sound very sexy. You don't see movie posters for the stabilizer.
No, you don't. But in a world that's increasingly chaotic, the source describes stability as magnetic. Think about it. When you meet someone who is truly stable, who isn't reacting from fear, who doesn't need you to constantly reassure them, it feels incredible to be around them.
You feel safe with them.
Yes. You're connecting, not trauma bonding over shared stress. And that stability leads to clearer decisions because you aren't making choices out of panic.
So the ultimate shift here is moving from asking, will they approve, to,
Does this feel right for me?
it sounds so simple, but that rewires your entire life. It gives you permission to stop trying to reinvent yourself every January 1st. The source suggests we should be refining and softening instead.
Softening is a great word. It's less violent. It implies you're already enough. You just need to clear off the debris. You don't need to be a different person. You just need to be the person you are when you're not afraid.
So if someone listening is in this phase right now, feeling that slowness, that lack of wins, what's the key takeaway?
The message is, stay. Don't rush it. Don't sabotage it by creating artificial drama just to feel something again.
You're not disappearing.
We're distilling. That's the word the source uses. When you distill something, you remove the water, the impurities, the fluff. What's left is smaller, yes, but it's so much more potent.
It reminds me of that lighthouse image from the end of our notes.
The difference between a firework and a lighthouse. A firework is exciting, it demands attention, it's loud, bright, and gone in a few seconds. It just leaves smoke.
And the lighthouse.
The lighthouse is boring. It just stands there. It doesn't move, it doesn't scream, but it survives the storm. And it helps others survive the storm just by being stable. The source is asking us to stop trying to be the firework and start building the lighthouse.
That really lands. It changes the goal from being seen to being solid.
And being solid takes time. It takes integration.
So I want to leave our listeners with a challenge based on this. We talked about how the biggest shift is deciding your internal state matters more than your image.
That your nervous system is more important than your reputation.
Exactly. So the question is this. If you stopped abandoning yourself today, right now, what is the first thing you would have to say no to?
And don't look for some massive life change. It might be a really small no.
Yeah, like saying no to scrolling for another hour when you know you need sleep. Or saying no to a phone call you just don't have the capacity for.
Or saying no to that little voice in your head that says you're falling behind.
Yes. Root deeply. Let the transformation happen without a spectacle.
You don't need to post about your healing for it to be real. In fact, keeping it private might be the very thing that makes it real.
Because that means you're doing it for you and not for the applause.
Precisely.
This is a heavy one, but a really necessary one, I think. A good reminder to just stop running.
And to trust the quiet.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Take care of your roots, and we'll see you next time.